on Pulse. We are indeed thankful that you chose us. All right, so we are waiting to speak with Dr. 𝐓𝐇𝐄 𝐍𝐄𝐖 Deputy Political Leader of the PDP. And of course, they are celebrating their victory. And let's welcome Dr. 𝐓𝐇𝐄 𝐍𝐄𝐖. Good morning, ma'am.
Hi, good morning, Brother V. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
So what does it feel like being the designate Secretary of Health?
It is a daunting task. It is one that I think I am able to realize, I'm able to actualize, but it certainly is daunting. But, you know, we are going to work together. We've gotten commitment really from all of Tobago to work together to ensure that we fix this island, and healthcare is just one of the things we will be working on.
All right, we're getting more into that, but let's just talk about this victory. Did you anticipate that it would be this? Something is all right. Did you anticipate that it would be this kind of victory? 14-1?
No, we absolutely did not. We were just praying to get to 8 and hoping that when we get to 8, we would be able to figure out what we do with, you know, the 8 that we get, whoever those are. So this was really a surprise. For example, when I heard Natisha's numbers came in, we were like, wow, this is amazing. This is great. When I heard Megan's number coming in, we were like, yes, this is amazing. This is great. So no, we did not think it was going to be 14 at all. And let me just say, even the 15th, even the one that we lost, it was so close. And that was one of those seats that in January we lost by, I think, probably up to 500 votes. And to have now lost by a handful, less than a handful, what, 2-3 votes? That is just amazing work. And I want to thank the people of Tobago for showing that level of confidence in the Progressive Democratic Patriots.
All right. The task ahead, Dr. 𝐓𝐇𝐄, obviously is a daunting task. Obviously, there are going to be challenges. Your leader, Mr. Farley Augustine, said that there's no time for honeymoon. Let's talk getting ready to take office. Obviously, the swearing-in is on Thursday. Have you come to that in your discussions as a team as to who is going to take what portfolios and that sort of thing?
So we are actually having those discussions as we speak. Because we have so many assemblymen now, that will be 14 assemblymen, and we still have the capacity to bring on 3 councillors. We are talking now very closely with each assemblyman, looking at their skills, looking at their technical capacity, ensuring that they are comfortable in the positions that we have assigned to them, and we would go from there. By Friday, all of Tobago would know who will be where.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, and so we know your expertise in public health and healthcare, and we know that that's your baby, and we expect that you will do well there. However, you did say earlier that you are prepared to work with, I'm not clear, work with other professionals. Just bring that into perspective, given Farley would have said, Mr. Farley Augustine would have said, Chief Secretary Farley, in waiting, would have said that he's willing to pool the talents. From your standpoint, in health, what is required to get an efficient health service working working towards a better health service?
Well, you are right. Tobago has quite a number of technical people who understand health, people who understand public health, and I am willing to work with them. And this is something that the PDP has said from the get-go. We are willing to work with everyone who wants to be a part of this process. That is what we said then. That is what we are holding to now. So I've even begun talking with other professionals who may not be, you know, PDP, but they are health professionals, and they need to be part of the discussion. They need to be part of the decision making. So yes, that is a policy that we will continue. And we want to rest assured that the PDP is not here to get rid of anybody. The PDP is not here to be vindictive. The PDP is not here to be any of those things. What we are here to do is to build Tobago, and we need all hands on deck to do that.
Mm-hmm. Very good. All right. So one other area which is critical, and you as Deputy Political Leader can speak to it as well, is the Secretary of Finance, who is critical in running the affairs of the THA. Obviously, funds has to be dispersed in varying divisions and so on. Is there any hint as to maybe break so that we can report the news later on to say that we know who the finance secretary would be?
Friday morning. Friday morning. Friday morning.
Okay. All right. Okay. So well, of course, right. All right. So let's get down to other very, very serious divisions that education is critical given the situation with COVID-19. You as a health professional would know that it's a risk to allow children in primary schools to go out, given that there are a number of cases that are rising now that children are dying as a result of contracting COVID-19. Your position as to school going back to its normal mode of operating, or how do you see that going forward?
Well, you know, one of the things we need to recognize is that COVID-19, we are at the point now where COVID-19, even though it is still classified as a pandemic, it has to be looked at as endemic, meaning it is something that we have to live with. That means the option of shutting down and just having everybody be in their own circle is not an option that is going to be viable for much longer. We have to figure out now how to live with COVID-19. One of the ways of figuring out how to live with COVID-19 is, again, beefing up our testing capacity. Brother B, you know, I have been saying this from the beginning, from the get-go, that if we do not fix how we test people here, we are going to have a problem. So that's one of the things we are going to have to figure out. If you look at other jurisdictions, testing in other jurisdictions has become as simple as, you know, using a thing called a lateral flow test that gives, it looks almost like a pregnancy test that you could go to any drugstore and buy it and get tested. We have to get to COVID-19 testing using that kind of methodology, where it is easier for people to identify on their own that they are COVID-19 positive and manage that after we get that information. So again, it goes back to the same thing with schools. In other jurisdictions, students are required to be tested on their own every week, every 2 weeks, depending on the situation in the jurisdiction. So that is something we are going to have to look at here, how we ramp up testing so that we know who has COVID-19. And the other end of that is ensuring that we ramp up how we respond to COVID-19, which would be ensuring that we have the ICU capacity and so forth to make that a reality.
Presently, and I'm glad you spoke about this testing. This long cube, this thing that goes down in your nose and sometimes touch the back of your brain, cannot be the way we test for COVID-19. I watched that they did they tested a little baby. Oh God, it cringed my soul to think that that is the normal. And I'm hearing you talking about a different way of testing. How soon do we get that style of testing, should I call it that, so that it makes it easy on individuals who are afraid to push this long thing down your nose?
Well, I think that is a policy decision. These tests are available all over the world, but even the PCR test where you need to do the nasal swab, they've been doing studies in the United States where they look at how far you need to push that thing in your head, in your brain, basically. And you'll recognize that in the US and in other places, they are not pushing it as far back because they've recognized that you can actually get samples without sticking your brain. So again, it goes back to following the science. It goes back to identifying what works, what does not work, and then shifting our policies in Tobago to reflect that. So I think that once I actually have an official sit down, because remember, I am still just ordinary person waiting to be sworn in on Thursday and then to be given the appointment on Friday. After that, I will be hitting the ground running, ensuring that we talk to the professionals to figure out where we are, to figure out what we can do, to figure out what we need to do to get those tests here, for example. There may actually be other providers who already have those tests here and we are simply not utilizing them.
Yeah.
So it really is a matter of doing the initial assessment and then rolling from there.
Yeah, because clearly, and again, there are people who tell you they go for testing and never get the result until 3 weeks. And by the time they come out of quarantine, they're not even sure whether they have it or not. Those are real issues that needs addressing. All right. So I think we covered that. I mentioned finance and so on. However, there is that whole issue of the Trinidad-Tobago relationship. Your leader, Farley Augustine, said that he cautioned the Prime Minister to treat us with dignity. And I know you would have your own little take on that. given that we have had a PNM THA and a PNM central government, and still we did not get our required amount for development and so on. How do you see that relationship improving? Do you intend to have it improve? And how do you intend to have it improved?
Well, we would love to have that relationship improve. We would love to have that relationship be one that is cordial, that is one that is respectful. We are cordial, we are respectful, we have been cordial, we have been respectful, and we are hoping that the Prime Minister and his cabinet recognizes that they are treating with the Tobago House of Assembly and the Executive Council, not the PDP, but the entire island of Tobago. And the entire island of Tobago does not just include people who voted for the PDP. Remember what, almost 30,000 people voted, 16,000 of those voted for the PDP. It means the other people voted for the other party. So if you think you are going to try to punish the PDP by punishing the Tobago House of Assembly, know that you are not just punishing PDP people, you are punishing Tobagonians, and some of those are members of your party. So we expect the Prime Minister to respond to us, and the cabinet and the parliament, as a matter of fact, to respond to the clear mandate. Because if it's one thing, we came out in January thinking, oh my gosh, we're not sure what we want, Tobagonians not decisive. If it's one thing we know now, is Tobagonians are very decisive. They've made a very clear choice in the number of seats that the PDP won, and coming so close to being a whitewash kind of thing, or a blackout.
Blackwash.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the Prime Minister and the cabinet needs to respect that, and I hope they are mature enough to do that.
All right. We need another level of maturity in treating with this self-governance bill. How high on the agenda would that be with a PDP leadership in the THA?
That would definitely be high on our agenda, because remember, we are the ones who really been pushing. We are the ones who were pushing for the amendments that we wanted seen in the document that was laid in Parliament in September of this year. And we are going to continue doing that. Remember, Mrs. Camille Robinson Regis gave us, as in the island Tobago, 15 days to send in our amendments. We did that and nothing happened. So the work has already been done in terms of identifying how we need that document changed, or how we need that legislation changed. So we will be pushing. Again, we will continue to insist that the Parliament and that the cabinet recognizes that the Tobago House of Assembly speaks for the entire island of Tobago. The entire island of Tobago is half of the country known as Trinidad and Tobago, and we need to take that into serious consideration. It's important, though, that everyone recognizes, particularly those in Trinidad, recognize that when Tobago functions, and Tobago functions well, it means that Trinidad and Tobago functions well. So they should not see this as Tobago trying to do something separate and apart from Trinidad, or Tobago trying to be malicious to Trinidad or anything like that. We are trying to develop Tobago, because if we develop Tobago, we develop Trinidad and Tobago.
All right. I'm going to try to sneak for you to cheat a little bit. The presiding officer, who is that individual, or who do you have in mind? Can you share that, or we have to wait until Thursday?
You have to wait until
Oh my God!
Thursday.
You're not giving away anything. All right, so
we're not giving anything. You just tune in, and we're asking Tobago. You will not be disappointed. You will not be disappointed with any of our appointments, with any of our selections. You will not be disappointed. We are Tobagonian first, and we're doing what is best for this island.
Very good. All right. So you're not telling me who is presiding officer. You're not telling me who is Secretary of Finance. Fine. All right. Well, we know who you are, so we know we could take that for now. All right. So let's get to another very, very critical concern that the supporters would be expecting unreasonable requests, or they would confront assemblymen with unreasonable, and would be quick to fall out with an assemblyman if he or she cannot come up with what they are requesting. What advice, but what would you want to say to the public, those who has an interest or an investment, more or less, in some of the candidates who they would have supported and would expect their pound of flesh cut, so to speak? Is there any cautioning as far as that is concerned with your colleagues?
Well, certainly. And if you realize, one of the things we did when we were campaigning is that we were not making outlandish promises, and we were not making individual promises. Like I have actually told people, yes, I see your situation with your road. We will try to work with it, but I am not promising that this will be the first thing we work on the 7th. And I think Tobagonians are smart enough to recognize that we are coming into a situation where the economy of the island is one that has been badly damaged even before COVID. All of the systems on the island are severely strained. We do not have the money that we would have or we should have gotten in terms of the 6.9% of the budget. So we really have to do a kind of mature financial management, and mature financial management, the same way in your home, would mean delaying some of the things you want to ensure that we have the things that we need, and that is where we will be going. And I think the majority of Tobagonians are understanding of that position, and they will work with us to ensure that we provide what is needed in a timely manner and not necessarily push for what we want. Now, the thing that we are critical about, though, is that one of the things we are looking at is the stamping out of corruption, because we realize that a lot of our resources get leaked away because of how we've been cultured to think that corruption is such a normal part of our process. And because we are committing to not being corrupt, we are committing to doing the kind of financing that is necessary, we are going to be stretching the little bit of money that we have, like Tobagonians have never seen. But that would also mean, and let me kind of caution, that this idea, we have this idea of a THA price. If you are to construct something and it would cost $5,000, but you send in a quotation to the THA for $20,000 because it's the THA price, we are going to caution against that. If the thing costs $5,000, then we expect to pay $5,000, because what you are doing by sending in a THA price is prevent 3 others of those things from being created. And we need all hands on deck. We need everybody to be mature. We need everybody to be responsible. We are going to manage the resources the best way we can, but we need Tobagonians to work with us to ensure it is done in the best way possible.
All right, so there will be some languishing projects. The road paving exercise, there are some of these roads that may never complete, but can be completed if the PDP sees it as important, or given that the PNM would have started it. Obviously they lost the election, so they don't have the resources to complete these projects. How do you see the PDP or the new administration with the new mandate finishing these projects, or are they going to be abandoned?
So the thing about projects in the Tobago House of Assembly is that once you start a project, you should have already identified where the funding is coming from to complete the project. So the PDP is not about just coming in and shutting down every project that started under the PNM. Of course, we will not do that. What we would do is critically look at some of these projects and determine whether they are a want or a need, determine whether they should be priority or not. And it is only those that we recognize that may have just been a want and not necessarily a need are the ones that we may look at not continuing, depending on what it is. So, roads, for example, are really, really dire. There are some not even man size or woman size. I actually saw an entire vehicle almost drowned in a pothole a couple weeks ago in my district. Projects like that we are going to continue working on because they need to be done. So Tobagonians need to not be afraid. We are not going to come in to just shut down things. No, we are going to prioritize, reprioritize if that needs to happen, and then we go forward.
All right, but Dr. Fitz, stay where you are. We'll come right back with you, and of course we continue our conversation after this break. See you then.
Thanks.
All right, so that's the hand dance, right? And they're still not giving me Daisy yet, but I'll take that for now, all right? All right, so Dr. Faith, you're there. Are you...
Yes, I'm here.
Are you a Christmas person, by the way? Are you a Christmas person?
I am a Christmas person to some degree. I have actually been spending the last couple of Christmases going around and giving breakfast and brunch to the older people in my district. I love black cake. Just saying that, saying
Yes.
that publicly to
Yes.
everyone. I
Yeah.
love black cake.
Yeah.
I love black cake with rum. Just saying that.
Right, right. Yes.
But other than that, I am really not into the decoration and that kind of thing. That's not me, but I love the celebration.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm a Christmas person, and it's good that we can acknowledge the season of goodwill. And you spoke about you distributing to your community. Obviously, you're going to do that as well this Christmas, yes?
Yes, that is the plan.
Very
Christmas money, I will be up and about.
So let's get back into the running of the affairs of the THA. Yesterday, we had Dr. Vanus James, and he spoke about, well, I could call it a watchdog committee, so that anyone who is employed in the THA or the Executive Council does not do anything that would lead towards any opportunity for any corruption at all. So this committee should be in place. Is that a concept that is embraced by the membership of the leadership of the party?
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, Assemblyman Farley, I think, spoke about it on Saturday night at our last meeting, where we speak about basically having that watchdog, a whistleblower opportunity, so that if anyone finds that something is going on that is corrupt, that is going against whatever the principles or the regulations are, there's a space for you to safely bring that information to us. I have said to my colleagues privately and publicly that all you're not spoiling my good name.
Right.
You will not. And if you feel that I was loud and very, very loud against what those on the other side were doing, and I would be silent against what you are doing, you have another thing coming. We are not in this to steal Tobago's money. We are not in this to fix our friends and family. We are in this to fix Tobago collectively, which means we have to do the right thing. So my entire team understands this, and it is something that is a policy of the Progressive Democratic Patriots, yes.
All right, let's go back to, for those of you who don't know, in your early years on radio with myself, when you spoke about community by community, that concept, let's go into that. Yesterday it was spoken about as well. With Dr. Vanus James. Let's bring that, given that was your early, could we call it philosophy of governance? Yeah. And you also spoke about the cares in the workplace. And I remember clearly that was one of our topics and so on. But let's go to community by community, building each community. What do you, well, let's say that I have a good, strong village council. I am not necessarily affiliated to any party. However, I know what the community wants, and I am in charge, more or less, the village council, that is the president and the executive. How do you intend to deal with community by community? The same concept that you spoke about years ago, that you mentioned within recent times, as to better see about the very community. Let's talk from that standpoint.
Okay, so before I go there, it's wonderful for you to acknowledge the fact that the PDP was the organization that was talking about doing
yes,
years.
So
thank you for acknowledging that when we were doing that many years ago. Thank you so much, Brother V. Thank you.
I was there from the beginning, so go ahead.
Exactly. Yes. But yes, and you are right. Way back when our first election, our tagline was "Let's build a better Tobago, child by child, family by family, village by village." And yes, we are holding on to that. The way we hope to do that this year, this go around, is to use the concept of community funding, which would be allocating to each district, to each village, a certain amount of finances, and we would say, okay, you know, if it's $1 million, if it's $10 million, of course, that is based on the available funding. And each district, each village would then decide what it does with that money. And you are right about having a village council that is neutral. Individuals are allowed to have their own political preference and their own political alignment. That's fine. We are in a democratic country. People are allowed to like a political party or support a political party. But we need to be able to be mature enough to separate that from our functioning when it comes to our public dealings. So a village council, we do not care who the president supported or who the executive of the village council supported. If the village council is speaking on behalf of the residents, then the village council speaks on behalf of the residents and will be able to say, we want to do this particular project for the community, and that funding can come directly from the community funding, you know, vote. in essence, for want of a better term. And that is how we plan to allow villages, to allow communities to develop themselves. You decide what your priorities are. You decide whether you want to spend the money fixing the road, whether you want to spend the money fixing Granny, have a step that break down so long and everybody want to come together to help Granny fix that step. Do you want to put in a homework center in your community? What do you want to do? And the money is available to do it that way. The other thing that's critical about that funding is we want to insist that that funding actually stays within the communities. So let's say we're doing a construction project. The guys or the ladies doing the construction, the mason and carpenters and so forth, should come from the community. We should only be going out to other communities if we can't find somebody within the village itself. And I use the example of the Belgarden Community Center. When it was commissioned, we heard that it cost about $13 million, a little over $13 million. And I've been asking Belgarden how much of that $13 million actually stayed in the village of Belgarden. Let's just say that half of it was used for material and half for labor. Imagine if we had $6-7 million staying in Belgarden, or very close to that staying in Belgarden, how that would have developed us as individuals, as families, as a community. That is the kind of equitable development we want to happen for the island. And we will be doing it. This is the other thing that we need to stress. This community funding will be available to all assemblymen to run their districts.
Very good.
So it is not one that only PDP assemblymen would have access to resources, but all assemblymen will have access to resources because the people elected you, and it is only fair that you can represent the people who elected you.
All right, so let's go to the social welfare area. And I say area because I don't want to say department. All right, so the PNM had a number of social programs, home improvement grants and other social programs, removing latrine and that sort of thing. That's part of it. Anyhow, so let's, and you mentioned there about, let's say Granny have a step, or there's a family that can't, is not able to take care of themselves. And what comes to mind is this woman in Bethel with these 7 children who walk about Scarborough sometimes, and you feel hurt because nobody's really paying attention. Now let's bring the social welfare department or division or the response to welfare, social welfare. From a PDP standpoint, what would be the approach? Are those programs going to be maintained? Is there a different approach towards it? How is it going to be executed and equitably across the board?
Well, they do need to be maintained, particularly in a period where so many people's economic activities was diminished because of COVID-19. So yes, we will continue that. As a matter of fact, one of the things I would be looking at with my team at Health and Social Services would be to ensure that we figure out a way to support people who are COVID positive, who are on quarantine or who are in isolation. Because we need a situation where they don't have to worry about going, you suddenly have this positive test and you're now figuring out where you're going to get groceries. That should be answered already through our division. So things like that we will be working out, we will be ramping out. I already had a very candid conversation with my team, and I had a very candid conversation with our chief secretary-elect, and I'm letting them know that I am going to be coming asking for resources if that is what we need, because we need to ensure that our island is healthy, our island is safe, and our island is secure. And then we can work on so many other things. So I know for a fact that I'll be coming asking for more money to do these things if that is what is necessary after doing the assessment after Friday.
All right, let me, again, I don't think I said congratulations to you, but let me do that now. And of course, give you an opportunity to, your closing comments, and of course, to your constituents and, of course, the rest of Tobago.
Yes, so thank you, Brother B. Thanks to everyone who has been calling, who have been messaging. I woke up yesterday morning with probably over 300 WhatsApp messages on my phone. I have been going through them, trying to say individually, thank you, thank you, thank you. But I would like to say from the Progressive Democratic Patriots to the people of Tobago, thank you all so much for being decisive. Thank you all so much for giving us this chance. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. We will not disappoint you. We would like to remind us, though, that when we said, let we fix this, we did not mean the PDP. We did not mean the assemblymen only. We meant all of Tobago. So we are asking all of you to hands on deck, ensure that we really, really work together to fix this island. And I think we can do it. I know we can do it. And at the end of this, we can truly say that Tobago is a better place. And as my leader actually says, that we want to make this the greatest little island on this planet. I think together we can do it. Thank you, Tobago, for giving us the opportunity.
And thank you for being with us and sharing. Of course, you still didn't say who the presiding officer was, but anyway, we got to leave that up. Wait until Thursday, all right? All right.
Wait.
Yes. All right, thank you, ma'am, and all the best to you and the rest of the team, all right? Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Very good. Dr. Faith B. Israel, Deputy Political Leader of the PDP and a representative for Belgarden Goodwood. Yep. Yeah. All right, Glen Morgan? Yeah. Anyway, all right. With that, we go.